ratings agency Moody's is warning of some challenging times for Akufo-Addo's government next year. In its post-election report, Moody's noted that some challenges still remain despite the win. These include key challenges constraining Ghana's creditworthiness, including low growth after the coronavirus shock. The rest are weak government revenues, low oil prices, and energy sector contingent liability risks. Now, Moody's further added that in its report that a weakened mandate resulting from a diminished parliamentary majority will further complement fiscal and economic reform prospects. Well, let's stay with President Akufo-Addo because he's promised to make the economy top priority as he gave his victory speech on Wednesday night after being declared winner of the December 7th elections. With the current debt stock above the 70% threshold and the economy being hit by COVID-19, the government has got some work to do. Some would also be the focus of the president as he prepares for a second term. Of course, we shall be looking deeply into this situation. Joining me via Zoom is the head of finance at Valley View University, Dr. Williams Kwame Prepra. We're so grateful that you joined us. First of all, what do you make of Moody's caution of challenging times ahead of for the president-elect? If you could mute your microphone, we could barely hear you. If you could unmute your microphone, please.
I think it has come at the right time so that the government will be very cautious in this planning, especially focusing on the fiscal management. We've noted that the debt to GDP ratio, as noted, is going above the 71% threshold, and which is a critical issue. So at this moment, government needs to be disciplined. That is going forward, and also government must make sure that it uses the digitization platforms to be able to rope in enough revenue. The last 4 years saw government focusing on a lot of digitization programs, mobile money, mobility, and the rest. So government must use those platforms to be able to bring in those who are not paying taxes. So that the revenue will increase.
What do you think must be the focus of the president, especially as he works to fix the economy and regain confidence?
The first point is look at the fiscal. As the debt is going up, it's a big issue. Currently, government, we know that their plan will not change because based on their manifesto, they are just going to consolidate what they have done the last 4 years. Government must be cautious in its borrowing. So if I were the government, what I would do is to focus on how to expand revenue or increase revenue collections. And I am advocating that the government must use most of the digital platforms to bring in people who are not paying taxes for them to pay taxes.
Now, in its bid to raise more revenue to make up for the rising debt, you advise deepening government digital policy. Tell us more.
At the moment, government just on a click of a button can know movement of money within the country using the GIP system. So, per our tax laws, revenue is determined based on movement of funds. So, if those with a lot of mobile money as like the new form of bank accounts, we need to ascertain if they are paying taxes. Now it's also linked to the our TIN numbers are also linked with GRA platforms.
Okay.
We have to be able to synchronize these platforms together so that they can speak to each other, and by so doing, government can bring in enough revenue to show up.
Great. Well, stay with us, Dr. Prepra, because something interesting happened during the time we were focusing on the elections, and that is a drop in inflation rate to a single digit of about 9.8% in the month of November. Let's first hear from the government statistician, Professor Sam Okobona-Aining, explaining what attributed to this drop, after which we come back to you.
The products which are ordered in a hierarchy gives us an opportunity to look at what is happening across the 13 divisions that we talked about. Of the 13 divisions, it's only 2 items that recorded rate of inflation higher than the national average of 9.8%. Specifically, we saw housing, water, electricity, and gas recording an inflation figure of 21.0%, followed by food and non-alcoholic beverages, which recorded 11.7%. The divisions that recorded the least inflation rates were recreation, sports and culture, 2.8%, education services, 2.3%, and insurance and financial services, 2.1%. We look at the contribution of the various divisions, that is the 13 divisions, to year-on-year inflation, and we find that food still is the predominant driver of inflation. Specifically, it is still contributing more than 50% contributing more than 50% to the overall inflation. Specifically, the contribution of food was 53.0% for the month of November 2020. Housing, water, electricity, and gas contributed more than a fifth, specifically 22.6% to total inflation, and this was largely driven by rent and refuse collection.
Well, Doc, so that should be a pat on the back for government, shouldn't it? Especially looking at the fact that they're targeting a single-digit inflation.
Yeah, that is true. You know, the new patriotic parties, anytime it's known that anytime they come into government, try to make sure that inflation rate comes down. So from 2016, where they started with 17.45%, and now it is around 9.6%, shows that they have a strategy. In my analysis, what I noted was that government normally focuses on making sure that there is enough exchange foreign currency to shore up its transactions. And there are two factors normally that causes inflation. That is the pull factor and the cost factor.
Exactly.
A major element of the cost factor is the exchange rate. So once government is able to control the element of exchange rate, you see that inflation normally comes down. So it's a plus to government to be able to bring the inflation to 9.8. If you look at the drivers, as noted by the statistician, it was the movement by the food basket.
Okay.
The food basket. So and that is why the government is focusing on trying to bring in the food, planting for food and agriculture. If we get that right in the next 4 years, based on these two strategies, we will see inflation dropping further in the coming years.
Great. Just before we let you go, you know, one other thing that people may ask is, what is a single-digit inflation, and whether or not there is no trickle-down effect on the economy, because our viewers out there would want to assess how this is going to impact the food on their table.
Mostly, you will not feel it too much, but then it's the change normally is a change in price of goods at a point in time. So gradually, you will see that money, if you, let's say you spend 10 cedis in buying something at maybe a quantity of, let's say, 12. Inflation will help you, that the 10 cedis will help you to be able to buy more quantities. So normally, that is the effect. You normally think that it's an issue, but inflation normally helps us to be able to control our expenditure. So gradually, we will get there. It's difficult that people say they don't feel it in their pockets, but
all right.
Definitely we will get there.
We're so grateful that you joined us. Dr. William Chopra, he's a financial analyst there.